Hi. So from sustainable coffee shops to new types of classrooms. Hi, my name is Mickey. I use she and her pronouns. And I want to start with a story, if that's okay. I recently asked my young people, on a scale from 0 to 10, how often do you experience joy in your school? I braced for the answer, knowing that there were days where my students would skip school to come to the safer space of a community center to spend their day. Their response, a 1 or a 2. Not satisfied with this low ranking, I invited my young people to radically imagine joyful spaces of learning. I asked them to tell me what the most joyful day at school could look like. And they had some elaborate stories. They shared about the perfect outfit. They shared about their train being at the platform ready to transport them to school, and the perfect bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And then they would pause. Some of their responses. Maybe school's closed that day, and the building was locked, so we decided to just go to the park instead. And joy ends at the doorway of school. How do we build something we've never seen or felt before? This is where Joy.edu comes in. Joy.edu is a disruption in the education system. It is a call to action, a call to healing, a call to joyful practices in our classrooms. And it's for Egypt, for Ray, for Brian, for Shari, for Louisa, for Jalen, and for every single young person and student in New York City. I want to amplify the voices of one of my students and co-designers, Luna, when she says, I feel like teachers and principals should trust us. We know what we need because every single day we think about it and hear from our friends. There are things that they don't see and that they should care about. Young people are the most important levers of social change that exist. And in New York City, the largest school district in the United States, with almost 1.1 million students, schools are ripe for change and system redesign. It's time to see young people as central decision makers towards the new future of schools. The current school ecosystem has schools at the center, with big players like the mayor, the chancellor, and teacher and police unions making central decisions that impact students' lives and embodied experiences in schools. But what if the system shifted? What if the system shifted to center student voices, experience, and expertise? This is the central question my thesis asks and explores. For myself, a public school alum, anyone else in the house? Okay. An educator for the last decade and a designer, all of my work has led me to this point. My own journey, y'all see little Mickey over there? My own journey as a youth activist started at the age of 13, when New York City cut all arts programming from our schools and replaced them with a school safety force that now, almost 20 years later, is the 5th largest police department in the world. My experience brought me to organizing for abolition and immigrant justice as a young person, to becoming a youth worker in 2009, and leading programming that sought to see young people's brilliance. My outside system work has led me to work intentionally inside of the system with my partner, Imagine Schools, and most recently teaching in a public school. In stepping into my role as a designer at DSI and SVA, I would be in an art classroom for the first time since 6th grade. But this time, working alongside my students to imagine new models for schools. And y'all, there's a lot that we are up against. But when young people are seen as the leaders that they are, we can win. And so I want to take a moment to invite you all to fill the space with joyful cheering for a few of the wins that we've seen young people fight for and win. The first, and I want to hear y'all cheering. In 1964, the largest student boycott in history filled the streets with 500,000 students. These students were fighting against school segregation, and their work led up to the Supreme Court decision in Brown v. versus Board of Education. In 1969, the Black Panthers breakfast program launched. This program has been widely adopted and still exists because of their commitment to nourish young people. In 1974, activists organized freedom schools and pushed for the Equal Education Opportunities Act, which made sure that regardless of immigration status, race, and neighborhood, there was equal access to public schools. And a recent win, in 2019, young people fought for there to be a student voice manager who could hear them and represent them inside of the DOE. It is currently the only position inside of the Department of Education that is selected by young people. This work continues in a powerful chorus and a lineage of education justice, and at a pivotal time and trajectory of schools. We have to listen to young people. As part of my work, I mapped the current youth-led demands in New York City with organizations like Teens Take Charge, the Urban Youth Collaborative, and Integrate NYC at the forefront. What I learned is that the pathway to joy must be cleared. Shifting the architecture of schools toward equity, resource distribution, mental health and wellness, and expanded opportunities, it's what's needed as we live in this moment in the until. Until equity, until justice, until joy. I know that bell hooks has been brought up a lot, and so we're just going to continue to echo the lessons that she left us. Bell Hooks in Teaching to Transgress says that she found a place where she could imagine possible futures, a place where life could be lived differently. Education as a practice of freedom is not just about liberatory knowledge, it's about liberatory practice in the classroom. And in order for us to get there, we must move and be committed to move from policing to power building. From seeing young people as passive recipients to creators of new pedagogies. And from control to care. So what are we building towards? Mariam Kaba suggests that changing everything may feel daunting, but it is in the infinite opportunities of experimentation that our imaginations stretch and we are able to create what does not yet exist. Throughout the last year, I've conducted 11 experiments in education justice, engaging 218 young people, 42 educators and administrators, 22, imagine that's my phone, 22 distinct school visits, 17 community organizations, and worked with 3 community partners. I want to share all of these with you, but y'all can read my process book for that. But I'm going to share 2 right now. So the first is that I conducted 8 designing for school transformation workshops where I actually shared the language of design and democratized it so that my students could be invited into the co-creation process fully. They made prototypes that would transform their school experiences right now. The prototype parties yielded creations like a robot that could check in on student wellness, to an app that would allow young people to organize across their schools, to a workshop for adult allies led by young people about how they can be most supported in their schools. Aren't they brilliant? Next, I felt like I needed to increase my own proximity to students, especially since most of my facilitation for the last 3 years has been online. And so with my school partner and with Sadie Nash Leadership Project, I led a class at the Urban Assembly for Media Studies within the MLK campus. My class has been a site of experimentation and of exploration about what we can create in schools. We played with room layout, explored and dreamt of community care, and talked about what we need to feel most liberated in our bodies. The central question that I'm left with from this work is how can educators like me, and maybe some of y'all, prioritize student joy as central to transforming schools? The challenges are real, and we must be willing to transform how we've always done things to a model that includes young people fully and from the start. We need more generativity, more generosity, and more commitment to listen to young people. This is echoed by one of my femtors, who I call Mama Fela Barclift, who is the founder of Little Sun People. She says, joy and love are the missing ingredients. When you love the children, you treat them differently. So now I invite you in to Joy.edu, a digital platform redesigning what classrooms and educational spaces across New York City could look like. All of the experiments led by me and others will live here, and Student Joy will be the catalyst to imagine the world building and bending that we so urgently need right now. I'm talking a lot about joy, and I want to be really specific that joy is a pedagogy. We see joyful practices by shifting and sharing power with young people. Joy is a policy strategy. We amplify the real and tangible demands that young people are looking for in their schools right now. Joy is a design principle. We use design as a tool to sustain, heal, and empower our communities. And lastly, joy is a ritual. We embody joy as a student right. Joy is the antidote to hopelessness and the pathway forward that is so desperately needed in New York City schools. I want to invite you into this platform, which is growing and needs our collective voices to echo the power and the possibilities of joy. Featured on the digital platform, you can post your own experiments in joy, lesson plans, articles, youth demands, and resources like a liberation library and a playlist for your own prototype party, and more that I'm sure I can't even imagine right now. The focus of Joy.edu is local to New York City on purpose. It's an invitation to see how we can see this work lived out in the world and to bring the idea of joy and education together so that when we ask our young people, how can you experience joy in school, they can show us and tell us. This work remains an altar, an honoring of Ella Baker and the freedom fighters of SNCC, the powerful youth taking to the streets and halls of power today, and for Monique, for Shelly-Ann, and for Maya, who guide us as ancestors. In the beginning of my thesis journey, I set out to build a feminist school. And what I realized was that there are 1,857 schools in New York City that need and deserve transformation right now. I'm committed to following young people's leadership and their joy as we transform and build them together. And I hope that y'all will join us. So you can actually go to the site. It's Joy.edu.community whenever you get a chance. But because Jenny so powerfully started us with a chant, and I am the last graduate to share, I want to close us out with a chant as well. This time, just like Jenny invited us to, I want to invite people to get louder and louder and louder. And most specifically, because Mondays is my favorite day of the week because that's when I see my students and are with them. And because I'm here and not in class with them, I want them to hear us from here. Okay? So y'all ready to repeat after me? Okay. Joy is. I'll do that again. Joy is. Youth power. Joy is. Radical. Joy is. Necessary. Joy is. .edu. Thank you.